All right, you're streaming. It says it's now streaming live, so we're good?
Yep, let me just get record started.
Look.
Okay, you're good to go.
Okay, guys, welcome to a workshop meeting. This is sort of a check the boxes and it shouldn't take long at all. So call to the order. Is it facing the right way when I do it like this? Or am I, which way?
Other way.
Exactly.
Either way.
There we go. All right, guys. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, Brianna, please.
Chair Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Buckbinder,
Here.
Mr. Sorofsky,
Here.
Mr. Pinsky,
Here.
Ms. Maloney is not here.
Okay, I don't know, Mike, do I still have to read the executive order 202.1 on open meeting laws?
We kind of got away from it. Mary Lou recommended it, but I don't know that it was mandatory, so
Okay, so
I'll leave it to you.
Guys, we have confirmed that tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, wow, a long time ago, executive order, which suspends certain provisions of the open meeting law to allow municipal board to convene a meeting via video conference. That's the short version. We have completed a roll call of board members. There's a quorum present for this meeting. I have confirmed the secretary of this meeting has been duly noticed, and we have fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting notice on the town clerk bulletin board, outside door, posting legal notice in the Shawnigan Journal, and posting notice on the town website. Boom. All right, first thing is the Solkberg LLI. Mr. Solkberg, not a big surprise here, opted not to change anything. So that sort of leaves us with the exact same map that you saw where they do an equal shift change between. So they're both non-complying, but the net non-compliance is not changing.
Right. No setbacks are being violated, but yes, they are all changing their non-compliance a bit.
So if anybody, you guys already saw this, does anybody have any other comments? We tried to get him to sort of rearrange all of his lots that he had in case he could make sort of everything back into greater compliance, but he opted to do this. And you guys indicated that you thought this was fine. It was not a further violation of non-conforming lots. So any commentary?
Just that we wouldn't, the houses are both existing, so they're really not much has changed. Those houses are, still going to be the same distance apart as they were before. They're just controlling a little less from one to the other.
Board members, anything, or should I just make a motion to certify the LLI?
No, I think the way we left it was fine. They're both non-conforming. They're still non-conforming, and
it's sort of it's pretty much, it is what it is. The argument of the ZBA had been that if you take each one individually, you would be making each one more non-conforming, but everybody pretty much came to a majority conclusion last meeting that net, because one's giving and one's taking away, sort of, that you end up in the same place. So if nobody's any other comments, I'll make a motion to certify the LOI. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Against?
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Heather.
Welcome. Looks like you have a long night in front of you, right?
No, this one isn't bad.
no.
We have a long night. We have a long night next for the regular planning board meeting.
Okay.
This one's going to be quick.
All right, good. Well, I'm going to sign off.
All right. Have a good dinner.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, guys. The next item that I sort of put on here was our third letter for the naming a CEA adopting officially as part of the comp plan, the natural heritage plan, open space inventory, and historic resources reconnaissance. We already sent a letter and I sent it back out to you. If we just want to say, yes, we still think this is a great idea, unless anybody has any further comment, I will change the date, saying the same letter. And if someone, any commentary?
No,
I
it
think it's
seems
Hopefully the third
fine.
time's the charm.
I think it's a great idea.
Exactly. As we've said before. So I will make a motion to send the letter, say
Lauren,
as.
before you do that, can I, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with, you can make the motion, but there, if it does get approved, or even if it doesn't get approved, there are some maps that were done at the time of the compiling of this study. They start on page 53.
Which of the many studies,
Okay, so it's the Natural Heritage Plan
right?
that was, I forget the exact legal terminology, it was agreed to by the town, but it wasn't adopted as part of the
Exactly.
comprehensive plan. But in any case, there are some maps, and I believe there's 10 or 11 of them. They start on page 53, although the page numbers are a little out of order. But what I wanted to say was that these maps should be made available in their intended size, which is bigger than 8.5 by 11, should be made available to the planning board. In fact, to every member of the planning board, because I think it will help that, along with the other tools that we have. It will help in things like underground water, the aquifer
Aquifer and,
protection,
yeah,
streams. It can't hurt, is what I'm saying. So if in addition to that resolution you're going to make, you could add something like, we'd like to get our hands on these maps and make them available to all the members as a tool.
so you know what, I'll add a line in the letter saying, and we also, it's sort of at the end, before we say, thank you very much, we'll do anything we can to help, saying that we would like also to have full-size maps available for the planning board and the ZBA and the EEC and
Exactly.
everybody to be
Yeah.
able to use for all of their work in the town.
And
I think it's a good idea.
if the more efficient way of doing it is giving us a thumb drive or whatever, great.
Whatever it might be, but so we all have access at home to
Right.
foots around with the maps.
Got
Okay.
that, Brianna?
That's okay. I will write it in, Brianna.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, other than that, any other ideas, comments, guys, on that one? Or,
No, I think
I
it's
agree with that.
something we need.
Because I was also, yeah, I was also going to bring some paragraphs there that's talking about the tool and the continuous training, how to use it, but I don't know how it can be implemented without one person being responsible for the tool. But at least to have a map, yeah, it would be really beneficial. Otherwise, it seems like a document sitting somewhere in the vault and nobody is using it.
exactly, and if you keep looking at the document and trying to enlarge all the maps, it just ends up a blurry, it's not interactive and it's a blurry mess that you can't really use. So how about if I make a motion with amending that we would like very big, wonderful maps for everybody who needs them, and otherwise send our letter saying that we are dying to have all of these things officially adopted.
Sounds good.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ooh, there we go. Against, abstain. Okay. The next one is the short-term rental regulations. Did everybody have a chance to look at it? Take the time to look at it. I posted it. If you go into, right now we can work interactively. If you go into the planning board shared drive and you go into PB documents, you will see the local law 5, not a PDF version, the Google Docs version.
Lauren, do you want screen share?
Yeah,
No, because I'm on the computer that doesn't, everybody
Okay.
should be able to access this on their computer.
Yep, I didn't know if you wanted, yeah, okay, no problem.
So
So
is that on?
everybody has that?
Where is it on?
Yeah,
Can everybody find it? You're in your planning
Does it
board,
have a-
Google Drive, PB documents, and it says local law 5, 2020 short-term rentals. And it is the version that is not a PDF. That is what came from, we have 3 things in that. You have the EAF full, you have the local law PDF version, you have the local law, a Word / when you open it, it'll be a Google Doc, and then the town board notice. So I went through, and Zorian also went through, so everybody has that up. All of my commentary, Zorian caught a bunch of things. There's Brianna, she's live. Once you get live, you're like a little a golf tee moving around the whole document.
I can't get to it.
Yes, you can.
I'm in shared with me and I'm not seeing it.
No, don't do that. Go to.
No, don't do that yet.
Can you hear me, Brian? Or sorry, can you hear me, Patrick?
Yeah,
Just go to the planning board folder
Exactly.
in your drive, where the same place you would go to look for like the
Maps
Solberg
Right.
file. And
right.
then there's a folder in that folder called planning PB documents.
Yeah.
You don't see that one?
Because I don't have a Google, because you guys don't, because I don't have a Google email. I don't think sometimes I get the update.
Do you
Or
want me to
try
send you the
refreshing.
link, Patrick?
Yeah.
Do you have yeah, Brianna could send you the link maybe and it'll pop up, or do
If
you have the
Brianna sends me
document?
the link, it works fine,
All
yeah.
right, I'll do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Because the other thought is you could have she sent the document before, you could just pull it up off your email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't have a Google, she's not sending it to my Google email. It becomes one more step complicated.
Okay. Everybody else dialed in?
Yeah, though, Maren, I only see edits from you in here. I don't see you. Did you say there were some from Zorian too?
Yes, and if you go down, you'll see like, they're very minor edits. Like my edit says, he sent me a document and
Oh, so you did those edits.
exactly.
I
So
see.
you'll
Okay,
see
got
the
it, got
second
it.
one, this says
Got it,
720.
got it.
It says, should word unit.
Oh, I
be
see, I see.
removed?
And then it says
Right.
parentheses Zorian.
Zorian,
Sorry, okay.
exactly.
Okay, I did not go through this way. I went through on paper, which is maybe annoying.
Well, it's fine. You can, if you have this up, you can, so
Thank you,
Sam,
Brianna.
your
Got it.
comments, ideas, whatever. We'll let you go
Yes.
first.
Welcome,
Well,
Patrick.
so my biggest kind of issue with this was actually the very first section, the A, purpose. I feel like this purpose needs to say more. This is sort of like, all it says now is we have tourism, now people are doing this, so we're going to make a law. I felt like it should say something more like, people are doing this, it's not currently allowed. There are benefits to doing this, but there are also costs. We don't want there to be people like constantly in violation. So we want the laws attempting to strike a balance between letting people do it, but also making it, workable for the town so that people aren't doing all the kind of sketchy things that they're doing now. So I did draft a little bit of language, which I guess I could paste into the comment, but I can also read it, which says, as tourism has increased in the town of Rochester, many residents have begun listing their properties as short-term transient rentals on web-based booking sites such as Airbnb and VRBO. The town of Rochester does not currently allow this use in any zoning district. Short-term transient rentals offer many benefits to property owners and residents in our town, such as increased income. However, they also have downsides to the community, such as potential unruly guests, health and safety violations, etc. In recognition of the widespread popularity of short-term rentals and in recognition that many short-term rentals are already operating, the purpose of this local law is to, and then go into what it already says, is to impose mandatory
Exactly.
regulations and requirements. I just felt like it's
Yeah,
not framing
I totally see
sufficiently.
your point. It's like this increased, so get your act together. It softens it, and we've done that in other things with purposes, or you can see it in other purposes that we have in other laws. It gives you a bit more of like, well, it'll be very
Right.
helpful, I think, for the public hearing that the town board will face, where you'll have both sides of the coin, some people liking it and not. So if you could cut and paste that and just put it either right into the body of the
Yeah.
text, I think that sounds good. I don't know if anybody else has
I
other
think that's
opinions.
wonderful. Yeah. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
have a question, Sam. You said in violation of what law? There is a law that directly forbid like a rental property of somebody?
Well,
Sort of.
I'm not an expert and we don't have Mary Lou here, but my basic understanding is that every single currently operating short-term rental could be cited as a violation because it's not permitted and no one's ever gotten a permit for it. So that's my current understanding. If that's incorrect, I would love to know, but my current understanding is it's as if every single person was doing something that's not allowed. But like clearly we're not gonna cite every single person with a
Right, and the way,
violation.
and the other thing is, Orion, I think Sam's idea is good that we put this in, and then Mary Lou and the town board can wordsmith it if it needs to be slightly different.
Okay, right. No, I'm just maybe I don't know, but the particular rule that forbids the short-term rental right now.
Right now, you're not supposed to be, it's not a permitted use. If you have a single family dwelling, your single family is supposed to be living in your single family dwelling. If you're going to be having lodging guests, you're supposed to have a bed and breakfast or a hotel, motel, etc.
I see.
So
Okay.
it's sort of in a gray zone of undefined, not really allowed. A single family dwelling is supposed to have a single family, and a multifamily dwelling is supposed to have a family living in it or renting it on a long-term basis. This has been the difficulty for, globally, that it snuck in between the cracks, and towns, cities, and villages worldwide are now either forbidding them, limiting the number, or making a permitting process like this so they, for the health and safety of everybody, they can be somewhat regulated.
Yeah, everybody's playing catch up.
Exactly. Everybody's playing catch up on this one. It's the famous tech runs fast, and the regulatory bodies have to run after the latest tech shining object.
So Martin, I
Sounds
just
good,
tried to
Sam.
edit. It looks like I don't have edit access. I just sent a request, but I'll also just send you the text that
Perfect.
I wrote. Okay. That was my first one.
All right. I think I just added you.
Okay, I'll try it and I'll
Try. I'm not exactly.
But I also just sent it to you and Brianna.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna say, can you send that to me for my minutes? Because that's gonna be a lot to listen
Oh, cool.
to.
Oh, it looks like maybe now I have edit access. Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, we can do it right in time. It's great.
Exactly.
Okay, I put in that.
Perfect. And just don't worry about the fact that you end up with this horrific
Weird
BCD,
formatting.
whatever. Yeah, just put that can all be fixed.
Okay,
So I
cool.
like that. Anything else that Zori and I mostly, when we worked on this in the ZRC, my first comment here was there was a discussion that if you could either live within 30 miles or have a business within 30 miles, and we took out have a business. because if you have a business in 30 miles, you can then drive another 60 miles in the wrong direction and you'll never be able to get there. So if you don't live within 30 miles, you need to assign a local manager, which somebody that is within 30 miles of the town hall. So that's why the delete or have, that was a leftover that was in there.
On that, I also thought that a good thing to add would be, I guess it wouldn't be under definitions. So sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
What
Right.
was the
You go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
what was the rationale of saying 30 miles from town hall versus 30 miles from the short-term rental itself?
Because you have such a big space that we have, that it made it a central area. Because let's say you live 30 miles from, there's that little cluster of
Maybe
houses
up
that are on
where
the
you
other
live.
that are on the other side of where I live, exactly. No, even worse than that, on the other side of the Sundown Wilderness is a little group. It would take you 3 hours. You have to go all the way out to like 52 down around to get back if they were.
Okay.
So having it close to town hall
The
made
one that
it,
you can
and
only
you could
get
really
to
get to
through
the bulk of
Wausau.
the bulk of the town, right?
Okay. So just going back, if we're going in order on
Yep.
definitions, almost to the point of the previous discussions, I didn't see unless I missed what a definition distinguishing short-term transient rental from all the other similar permitted uses like hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, and there's another one. So what makes it a short-term transient versus a bed and breakfast?
Because there's regulations for the bed and breakfast, there's regulations for the safety, access, garbage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the transient stuff, there was never any specifics as far as the health and safety.
So
And
is
a
it,
bed and breakfast has bed and breakfast have very specific rules and
so what makes
New York
something
State code
transient?
that you have to serve breakfast, and that the person, remember when what you call
Matt
Barry
and Bob.
Potter was doing it, the person running it or the person has to be on
Has to be
site.
there.
Exactly.
So is what makes it transient that it's rented for less than a month, less than 2 months, less than 6 months? What makes it transient?
less than, I think the official definition is less than a month, less than 30 days. That's why it says the
Is that
rental or
in-
lease of a dwelling unit for a period of 30 days or less to
Is
one
that in here? I
entity.
didn't see it.
Yeah, that's in short-term
Oh, I see
transient
it.
rental.
Sorry, never mind. Okay. One
And
other
it
thing in
says specifically
definitions.
there that motels, hotels, resorts, inns, and bed and breakfasts are excluded from this definition.
Okay. On definitions again, under local manager, it says, and maybe you corrected this, but the last sentence in that local manager, the local manager must reside or have within 30.
Yep, I took that out, that have
What
part,
to say
the or have.
within, right?
Must, just exactly, it should be just must reside. So I corrected that.
Also, Rick, on that point about like what makes it a transient rental different from a hotel or an inn, et cetera. I mean, I think that's part of what I was trying to get at, and maybe I should be even more explicit in what I wrote about the purpose is like, we have pretty strict, and this actually came up in that bed and breakfast application that Maren just referenced that Barry Medenbach's daughter had, is that like, this is a way for someone to do something that they're not currently allowed to do with like a lower set of standards than would currently apply if they were doing it in the way that they're allowed to do it, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like, I feel that it's important to frame it that way as like, this is a set of standards to make it possible for you to do something that's currently not allowed. So even if these standards seem a little like strict, maybe against the background that we have right now, which is everyone's in violation. Like it's, the benefit is now you're not in violation.
Yeah, I think you said this, would be valuable to also state And making these rules is not inconsistent with the rules that govern hotels, motels, bed and breakfast. So it's not like we're singling these out. I think that's what you're saying, Sam.
Right.
You're not singling out people who do this. We're simply making it consistent with other alternative uses. Again, motels, hotels, resorts, inns, and bed and breakfast. So here's one that fell through the cracks. It's a new entity, and we want to define it with the same health and safety regulations that we have for the other things.
Yeah.
So should we suggest another line in purpose that says something that sort of adds to Sam's, that says, this will bring this use more in line with similar transient stay uses? I'm not being terribly eloquent, but
I think you're headed in the right direction with it. It'll bring it more in line with the objective of the town to define other such uses as in hotels, motels, resorts, inns, and bed and breakfast, something to that effect. I'd have to noodle the verbiage around that, but again, to Sam's point about not making it punitive, you guys have been doing something wrong and getting away with it.
right.
While that is kind of the case, what we're really trying to do is take a new use, call it a loophole, call it an alternative style, and just giving it the same health and safety regulations that we already have for those other 5 or 6 non-residential, non-commercial uses.
I think that looks good, Sam, what you put in. He put in, if you go, the purpose of such regulations and requirements are to assure that the properties being rented meet certain minimum safety and regulatory requirements, which are proportional to those imposed on similar uses such as bed and breakfast, inns, I'll correct the stuff there, but inns,
Yeah.
motels,
That sounds
and
great.
the rest of them. So it shows, because that's always, the last go around we did when they had public hearings on this, everybody says, I want to do this totally unregulated. And the other side was the people who run bed and breakfast say, well, we have a lot of health, safety, and et cetera rules. We have to have fire extinguishers and you don't, but you're running a bed and breakfast essentially without even being there. And this says that it makes it proportionality that you can still do this, but there's a minimum of health and safety.
Yeah. And cleaning up that and like the formatting, because
Yeah, that's exactly. You're sticking it. I can clean that up to make it so it's all in a
coherent sentence.
A coherent sentence, exactly.
Should inns have a 1 S or 2 S?
Oh, that's just a typo.
It's just a typo. I'll fix it. I'll fix it so it looks de-typoed and stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna keep it sort of ugly so we don't stay here till 2.
So page 3, Maren,
Yeah.
under maximum occupancy. I just want to add perhaps a word. Code enforcement officer shall establish the maximum occupancy. The CEO shall limit.
What chapter is that? It doesn't have a pages.
Oh,
Yeah, the
chapter,
page.
hold on.
So if you go under L,
No,
application
actually,
process.
under H, application process.
On the
H,
printed one, it's H. On the
Sorry,
one.
it all got switched. It switched when you put your stuff in. Okay. Find
Actually-
application process.
Rick, could we actually
Mine
just go
says
through?
D.
Could we just actually go through the headings like in
In
order
order.
with the documents, and just if anyone has a comment,
Yep,
do it.
yep.
Well, that'll keep us together, I think, too.
Yep.
So the last one we were on was the definition of short-term transient rent. So we were at the end of definitions, and then there's applicable law.
Sorry, now we should be back to correct numbers quickly.
Oh,
So in applicable law, there's a big change. Affect is affect is the verb, effect is the noun. So I fixed our English. The And then Zorian had a good point here when you go through all short-term transient rental units shall obtain a valid permit from the code enforcement officer. We really should say rental units, property owners or operators, because a rental unit can't apply for anything. It's a inanimate object.
Hmm.
Yeah, plus
Sure.
you have all those, somebody else, somebody owns it, but somebody else is managing it.
Exactly. So that way and it should be that the manager, the way the rest of the law is written is, or the spirit of it was when we worked on the ZRC and when the town board worked before that, actually they did the first run, is it's the property owner always, the buck stops the property owner. So all short term, you have to keep, I think you have to keep in transient rental unit property owners because you have to be,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
you have to be really repetitious of what they're owning. And but operators should probably be out. You should the property owner.
You could say, or the representative.
Well, it really should be,
I mean, you may have somebody from, so let's say Brooklyn owns a house, but they have somebody who's managing it up here and they never go there. And the manager is the one who goes to the CEO or Barry or something like that.
well, the idea, as I understood it, when the town board, and that could be something that we could ask what the intent was, the intent of the town board when we got it, and then the ZRC committee, when we looked over it and added stuff, was it'd be the property owner should always do that. When you want to do this stuff, your applications, you either write a letter like we do for the all of our stuff saying I give, but it can't be that the manager goes and does that,
Agent.
because the manager could go off and do God knows what, and the property owners in Brooklyn
All right.
and the managers,
Yep.
you always go back to the property owner, sort of for the legal liability, so to speak.
Okay, yeah.
And then they could sign over if they can't make it. They could sign over and have a representative.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
We go to application process.
Oh, on application form,
Yes.
this is just on between F for fee and G for application forms.
Yeah,
I guess now that I'm looking at it again, it seems like there's possible confusion between, in F, it says permit fee shall be submitted with each, for each short-term transient rental unit at the end of the first sentence. But then it's unclear, like in the last part of G, applicants must file a separate application and tender a separate fee and obtain a separate permit for each dwelling unit to be used. Maybe I'm just confused, but like, say you have a house that is 2 units, right? Like, say you're renting out the upstairs and the downstairs separately. Would that be 2 permits? Am I overthinking this?
you are overthinking, I think, on that, because you
Okay.
look at the definition, it really is the building. So
Okay.
that's, you're getting it for the building, the lot. When you go down, you see you have to have a site plan and et cetera. So I think
Okay.
on that one, you're overthinking it, that it is really, it's for the building itself.
Okay.
I guess
Maren,
possibly,
Maren,
the-
sorry.
Who goes first, Rick,
I
Rick
guess-
or Zorian?
I guess possibly, and this is not our realm, but it's the town board. If there are 3 units, the fee is going to potentially be higher than if there's only 1 unit. So the fee might be by unit.
Maybe we could suggest that the town board clarify that, like, if you have a single building with multiple, that is like listed as multiple units on the platform, is the fee per rental unit or like per building that they're in?
Right.
Sam, it's Mike. Dwelling unit is defined in the general code
Right, that's,
already as being, as Maren said, the building. So if you have one building that you have 4 units in that you're renting, it's one permit for that building. If you have a second building on the property that you wanted to do additional units, that would be a second permit. So the permit is
Okay.
by the dwelling unit. I don't have the code directly in front of me, but the dwelling unit is already defined elsewhere in the code. So,
Okay.
What if, Mike, within that unit, that building unit, you've got 4 rental units, 4 individual
Yeah,
units?
so-
You're going to charge the same fee for that versus a building that has only 1 rental unit?
it's no different. It's an inspection. So the fee is based on the cost of what it's costing the town for the inspection. It's similar that if you were going to a hotel or something, we don't charge by the room, we charge by the total square footage of the building. So it's about the building is what is getting the permit.
So you charge by the size of the building?
Yeah, yeah. And we haven't, the fees are to be determined by the town board. So that's not a part of this local law. It says in the local law that the fee is to be established by the town board. So if we decide, the local law is not saying that the fee, the application is by the building, but not necessarily the fee is whatever the town board decides it is. So I guess my point is, don't get caught up in what the fee is going to be, because that'll be something separate that the town board's going to determine.
Well, though, that was helpful, Mike. I think maybe like if we go back to the definition of short-term transient rental unit, we could say the rental or lease of any dwelling unit or part of a dwelling unit. Because if the dwelling unit is defined, in the code already as like the whole house, even if there's 4 apartments in the house, that's still one dwelling unit. In this instance, you might specifically have short-term transient rentals in only 1 out of those 4 units. So it might make sense to, in this code, differentiate a short-term transient rental unit from a dwelling unit. In other words, like all dwelling units can contain short-term transient rental units, but not all short-term transient rental units are equal to dwelling units. They can be less than a dwelling unit. And then if you tie the fee to the short-term transient rental units instead of to the dwelling units, that makes it so that if you're trying to have 4 separate Airbnb listings, there would at least be the option for there to be a 4x fee.
I don't mean to interject, but I think you're confusing it. The whole house, whether it's going to be a single rental unit or they're renting it out multiple, is going to be inspected, because inevitably when somebody rents the space, they have access to it's assumed that they have access to the kitchen, to the,
So maybe what we should talk about this then is not.
I think you're trying to
it's an
boil it down
inspection.
to, but I'll jump out of it. But I think you're misunderstanding what the inspection is. The inspection
Well, then
isn't
it
by
sounds like-
room.
It sounds like what you're saying then is the fee is an inspection fee.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
It's not a permit fee. So we should change the
Well,
language.
it's a double fee. You're getting a permit. With the permit, you get the inspection, but you're applying for the permit. So it is a permit fee.
And you can't get the permit if you don't get the inspection.
Correct.
So it's a permit that has to have an inspection as part of the permit. I guess it's a little.
And the renewal of the permit is just,
And
you
Mike, what you're
don't
saying is
reapply, you just
the
are
smallest
re-inspected.
and the smallest entity that could be inspected is a dwelling unit. You cannot inspect anything
Correct.
small.
The
Right.
entire dwelling unit is going to be inspected.
So even if you have 2 separate bedrooms that are being rented out separately and nobody gets to go to the kitchen or do anything, and like an old fashioned Airbnb, the person is still living there in the 3rd bedroom using the house, they're going to inspect the whole house no matter what to see, egress, safety,
Okay.
etc.
So then I think in fee, we should say a non-refundable permit fee shall be established by resolution of the town board and may be amended, blah, 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 for each dwelling unit that houses short-term transient rental units. As I think that like says what it's trying to say now.
Let's use a different word than houses, or people are gonna get like really confused with house.
Sure, yeah, no, good point, bad verb choice.
But if you look at short-term rental, it says rental of lease of any dwelling unit or part of a dwelling unit. So you're already splitting there. So
I added that just now, but it sounds like I should take that away.
Yeah, you probably should take it out of the definition part, but I agree in the fee.
Yeah.
Just so, because you're gonna have somebody come in and say, well, I don't need to do that because I'm just renting a bedroom. And why do I need to have the whole inspection? And that clarifies that if you're renting out in anything, then you need to have a permit.
And then that solves that thing that I was getting hung up on the G, is applicants must file a separate application and tender a separate fee and obtain a separate permit for each dwelling unit to be used as a short term. For each dwelling unit which contains short term, yeah.
Maren, you might want to, just sort of put that question into your letter that you're going to submit, just to clarify, because while it makes sense to me, maybe it needs to be clarified more. So I'm not saying you guys are wrong in asking the question. I'm just saying that wasn't the intention of the law, was that the entire house or the entire dwelling unit, I don't want to use the word house, the entire dwelling unit gets the permit. But if that needs to be clarified, that's probably not a bad comment to make. I think the town board can wordsmith it rather than you guys trying to figure it out.
Yeah, because I think it's important, because it's like if the permit or the inspection fee or whatever is linked to a dwelling unit, regardless of how many transient rental units that dwelling unit contains within it,
that's the intent. But whether it says it or not is another story. So
yeah, I think.
All right, I put the comment in there so I can add that into and you guys can have a look at the cover letter before we send it. That we need a clarity to make sure that someone knows that. I mean, because I see what you're getting at, Sam. I got the idea, when you're too deep in the weeds, like we're doing this with Mike, that, well, it's clear, but I could easily see someone saying, I don't need to get a permit or anything because I'm just doing a room.
Well, and for me, I thought it was trying to say that you need 4 permits.
If you're doing 4 bedrooms, right?
Right.
So maybe exactly the town board and Mary Lou can wordsmith it to make sure that it has good clarity there.
And maybe even just in the definition section, it could refer back to the, like, I know that it's, it refers to itself implicitly, but it might be useful to just like note that there is an existing definition.
I think, Sam, it just popped in my head. Remember, like any other use of property, this is a short-term rental is not a room, it's a use of property. So the whole property is being utilized with that use, just like any other defined use within the code. So
that, but that's the same thing, that maybe that it gets added into definition of short-term transient rental unit also, so people know it's a use, whether it's a bed or not, and it's not by physical room entity.
It's like a home occupation. You may only use one room in your house for your home occupation, but you have a home occupation permit for that property.
So I might actually add that check home occupation and how we sort of spell it out there.
I don't want to belabor it, but
So on that one, Sam? Yeah,
Which one?
what? Go ahead.
I don't want to belabor it, but Sam, the point being made is using the word dwelling unit and then you use rental unit. So which is it, a dwelling unit or rental unit? It's a dwelling in which you have a rental unit or units. So that just needs to be clarified. The permit is for the building or but
The
you're
dwelling
using two terms and they both mean something different. Rental unit and dwelling unit are two different terms meaning two different things. So that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, but the dwelling unit has to contain the rental unit.
Then we should define it as such.
Yeah, we could maybe in the definition of short-term transient rent, it says the rental or lease of any dwelling unit or part of a dwelling unit for a period of 30 days or less.
So either the larger entity is called the dwelling unit or it's called the rental unit, and the smaller entities are either dwelling unit or rental unit.
No,
I
no,
know
no.
the permit is just for the
I don't
building.
think you can do it that way, Rick. It doesn't work with the way the standard short-term transient rental unit concept goes when you see all the rest of and then it also starts to conflict with dwelling unit is defined in our regular zoning.
Right.
So we have to be consistent. We can't start making new dwelling unit definitions that now are different from how we define dwelling unit in 140.
The other thing is, say they have 4, and you're going to get into this whole sleeping room thing, but
Right.
just say they have 4 rooms. They could potentially rent it out to 4 individual groups of people who are not interconnected in any way, or they could rent it out to one large group, a large family or a large gathering who are there staying as one group. And these 2 people are staying in this room and these 2 people are staying in this room. So it can work in either fashion as individual rental units or as somebody's renting the whole house. And that's why it's done based on dwelling unit, because you have to get your permit, and that's the whole maximum occupancy thing, where the code enforcement officer determines what can be sleeping areas.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see
'Cause
farther down.
most of these are whole house rentals. Very few are renting out in short-term rentals by the room.
Yeah, that was going to say that because we started mixing. If you're renting Zorian, if you're renting a room, it's sort of to me like a bed and breakfast. You may don't have a breakfast, but you get in bed, and somebody is living there, you know.
Well,
but short-term rental, people usually rent whole house.
so that's why we took out short-term transient rental unit and just called it a short-term transient rental. And it is, and what Mike keeps saying is, even if you've got one room or different people, whatever, the whole house, if you rent a couch, because we define a sleeping room could be a couch as long as it has a couch in a living room, as long as it has proper ingress and egress for safety. The whole house has become a short-term transient rental, even if you only have one.
Right.
So I think just adding in, so it's clear to people, or part of a dwelling unit, but the dwelling unit, no matter what, is going to be inspected and have to get the permit.
And I think, Maren, say there was a main house on the property and a guest house, and the guest house is the short-term rental. We're not going to inspect the main house because that's a residential use. We don't have any legal authority or ability to go inspect the house. We have the ability to inspect the property that you're going to use for the short-term rental.
Exactly, but that, in that case, is the dwelling unit.
Correct.
Because even in that little guest house, you could do what Sam is saying, you could
Right.
be a big guest house.
And that's the point of why it's a separate permit for
Right.
each dwelling unit, because if you have 3 guest houses on a property or something, you could have 3 separate dwelling units. But each bedroom is not a dwelling unit. The
Exactly.
building itself is.
So what you just said, Mike, makes sense where it falls apart is using the word rental unit.
I think the edits that are currently in the document make it clear.
I think it makes it clear enough, because I don't really think it falls apart, that you want it to be short-term transient dwelling rental unit? I mean, that gets us, that,
I mean, my initial question was just like, does the fee follow the pieces that are rented out separately, or does the fee follow the dwelling unit,
The
which
fee
might
follows the
or might
dwelling
not?
unit.
And now that's clear. It's also clear that a dwelling unit could contain more than one rental unit,
Exactly, but
or
you're
could
still,
itself, but you would still only have one fee. I think that's what I wanted to clarify. I think it's, at least to my satisfaction, clarified.
So I'll make just one recommendation on both of, and see if this works. And I think Sam may have said it. In F, just say a non-refundable permit fee may be established by resolution of the town board and be amended from time to time by the town board, period. And then in G, applicants must file a separate application and tender a separate application fee and obtain a separate permit for each dwelling unit to be used as on a short-term basis. Leave out rental unit, it confuses things. You've said dwelling units already defined in the code. Forget about the word rental. Rental is a verb, so you're using the dwelling unit on a short-term rental basis, not a short-term rental unit. But, you know,
Will you say again what you suggested for F and G, Rick?
for F, I'm suggesting, and may be amended from time to time by the town board, period.
So it would read fee, a non-refundable permit fee shall be established by resolution of the town board and may be amended from time to time. Blah, blah,
Period.
blah. And then maybe such permit fee shall be submitted with each new application and annual
Right.
renewal to make it clear that it's not one time.
And then for G, I'm simply suggesting applicants must file a separate application and tender a separate application fee and obtain a separate permit for each dwelling unit to be used on a short-term basis, as a short-term.
Yeah.
Each
a
dwelling unit
short-term
to be used
transient
on a
unit, a
short-term
short-term
basis.
to be rented, you sort of, I have to say that it's going back to become this entity, because the use is a short-term transit rental unit,
You
because you
say as a
turn
short-term,
dwelling unit into it.
as a short-term rental then. A dwelling unit to be used as a short-term rental
You just want unit out.
and transient. Of course, it's transient. That's the whole nature of the law. So
I think you
leave
still
out,
have to, Mary Lou, I'm pretty sure is gonna put that right back in, because that is the way it is defined. It's a bit, I realize it is redundant, but
I think this, we can now let the town board debate. I mean, I
exactly.
think we've like
We're not,
highlighted
right, exactly. We're not the town
that
board here.
there's,
We got the idea of, we wanted to make sure that if somebody is
I
just
think-
renting part of their house, they realize they need to still apply, and that
I
the
think-
inspection will be for the whole house, the whole property. What we're going through here, Rick, Mary Lou's gonna overrule anyway. It's gonna have
well,
to
I
be.
think we're just acting, I think the suggestions are acting as just the town Joe saying, I don't understand this. That's what we're saying. So the town board could leave everything the same, but I think people are still gonna scratch their head and say, dwelling unit, rental unit, which is it?
right.
That's all.
Maren, why don't you make the point in not, instead of trying to rewrite the code, just give us a paragraph that says that the planning board, it was, had comments that, it may be confusing as to the differentiation or something like that, and just throw the question back at us. And then we'll let the town board and Mary Lou resolve because I see the dilemma. I understand what you're saying.
But we're not gonna resolve it here, but,
Let's
and
go
it
to
also is
H.
somewhat consistent with
I
versus,
think
Myron,
pointing it out so that
Myron?
it could be clarified later
Right.
is the important part.
exactly, right.
Myron,
Yeah.
in E, somehow that transient rental unit was deleted before, now it's not.
In E,
Yeah, right before property. Wasn't it deleted before?
it was deleted in another, it was up in the, it was up in the definition where it was deleted. So I think what we need to do here, guys, is taking out units, adding in units, doing all this. The key
That's
thing
not our
whenever
job.
we do all of this is that it's consistent all the way through. It's the same name all the way through. Or legally, you end up with a loophole that if you don't define short-term rental, short-term transient rental unit, short-term unit, short-term whatever up there in all of the definitions, then it could be up, I'm doing something that isn't there. But if you use the same name the whole time that covers everything, as awkward as it might be, then people are caught within the parameters of the rule and having to follow it. Does that make sense? So wordsmithing, units in, rentals out, or whatever, you're gonna need 15 definitions with it in, with it out, with it this, with whatever, because if you ever use it differently, it has to be referred back in a definition. So I don't think we should start messing unit in, unit out, and basically say what Mike and Sam just said, that we have comments that it could be confusing the way this is written. Is this the best way to write it? But then it has to be the same name all the way through. So we can't start taking it in and out. Got it?
Yep.
I think we agree with that.
Pardon?
I think we agree with that. I think it uses two terms here and uses them interchangeably, and they're not. Dwelling
And
unit
that's
and
what
rental
we're
unit
pointing
are two
out.
different things.
And we're not going to fix every one of them tonight. We're going to
Right.
point it out to them and say, guys, you need to fix this so you don't end up with loopholes in your law. All right, application process.
I had a comment, I put it in green there, but it seems that it should, we should know, sorry, we're asking for information on the hosting platforms in 3B, but we're not asking for even just an affidavit from the applicant that that what they're listing is in compliance with the rules of the platform that they're listing.
I think, Mike, you can pipe in here because we talked about this before, that it was something that we can't enforce. Like we had put in here and it was taken out by Mary Lou, another thing, which was proof of insurance. That if, you know, everybody, that the house falls down, we're not letting people stay in an uninsured house, and we can't make people do that, is what I understood was Mary Lou's.
Sam, the reason we ask for where they're hosting it, we can't require that they advertise it a certain way. We have no control over how they
Right.
advertise it. What we do have control over is how they use the property. So the hosting platforms is more for us to have the ability to go back and do a spot check if a complaint is lodged, and then we can determine if they're in violation of their permit. But
You're saying that like the fact that.
We can't say you're only allowed 8 people and we know you're advertising for 10. We can't do
can't
anything about
control
that.
that.
We have no control over
We have
how
no
they
control.
advertise it.
So like, and we have no, like, we can't say as part of your permit that we want you to sign on the dotted line that you have verified that you comply with the rules of the platform that you're using.
We can't do
ask for
that.
We can't do that
We can't do that.
That's.
because
that
we
makes
don't
me
have any
angry.
authority to make those rules.
Right.
And so if somebody advertises 10 and the permit is only for 8, we can't do something about that. We can't use that knowledge.
We can use that knowledge to investigate, but we can't use that to create a violation. We can only create a violation if we observe 10 people staying at the space. You can advertise as many as you want, but it's not a violation until you actually do it.
All right, well, maybe I need to just comment on this as a private citizen because but yeah, that irritates me just as like a citizen of a place that has laws, is that there's no way of making sure that these hosting platforms are enforcing their own rules and they all flagrantly violate everyone's laws. And it just makes me angry, but I guess that's not.
I
And-
totally
And that's
agree.
up to the hosting platform to enforce.
It's
We
up to the
can't-
Attorney General of the state, and they've been grossly negligent in their duty, and I think it's an embarrassment for all of us. But I
Understood
hear
and-
that it's not on us.
Yeah, understood and agreed, but legally, we have no legal
If
authority.
it's not on
to
us,
do it.
it's bad for us to put it in our law if we don't have the ability to enforce it. I
Exactly.
completely,
Exactly.
that's
So
my
that just got
libertarian
kicked
side
out.
agrees with that.
And then your
Okay.
other stuff you have there, the website is supposed to cover Airbnb, VBRO, et cetera.
I just thought it was weird to list specific websites that aren't really
'Cause they're-
used
you're
for
gonna
that.
get all
but,
kinds
like,
of
Well,
new ones
Facebook
coming
and
up all the
Instagram aren't
time.
a website.
well, I just think
That's
then we
why they
should just
went
say, then we should just take out the names of Facebook and Instagram. I think.
kind of
I just thought it
agree
was
with Sam.
weird. It just read really weird to list
I agree. How about if we
Instagram
do
and not
Airbnb, VBR, or other hosting platform websites, and also, because Facebook and Instagram aren't websites.
I just thought it was
Or-
weird.
I agree. How about because I want to keep in, because you have Airbnb and VBNR. Maybe they both had a business, and now it's.
Yeah, you want to say or other website.
I have a question. How is it a planning board function to start talking about what it says in the law about websites or not? Why are we doing this?
It is exactly. It isn't.
So
That
why
was
are
what-
we doing it? Why are we discussing fees, which is not our job either? Our job is land use. And that's what the board wants from us is, what do we think this has to do with land use and what advice do we have for them? Not how much the fee should be for 3 units or 1 unit. That's not our
But
job.
we're not discussing fee.
Well, we were before at one point. We were talking
Well,
about.
you know, so what if we discuss it, if we go off topic, Brian? Big deal. We're citizens, we're citizens of this town. If we're off topic, the chair is going to tell us we're off topic. So I don't see a
Okay,
particular
so I'm
problem.
suggesting
And
that.
what difference does it make what difference does it make if we
Okay,
do
guys,
ask for the
guys,
hosting
stop.
information?
Stop.
Give me a
This is only
break.
This is only 6 pages long, and we're almost there. Okay? We can change this to be, the better language, Sam, is such as but not limited to Airbnb, Virgo, or other hosting websites, comma, Facebook, and it could be or social media sites. I'll clean it up there, such as Facebook or Instagram, because they're not, but the other stuff you mentioned, it's Brian's right on that one. We can't, if they're lying right, left, and center, it goes back to our tremendous government. All right, guys, park. Have everybody read through this parking? Anything else that looked? Maximum occupancy, water and septic. Should we read through it together?
On
Are we all
maximum,
reading?
maximum occupancy,
Yep.
it says the CEO shall establish maximum occupancy. The CEO shall limit the number of occupants based on the number, size, configuration, furnishings of the bedrooms or sleeping rooms, and available parking. Because in the previous section, you talk about, or somewhere you talk about parking, right above it. And the
Yeah, I
CEO
agree.
has to-
Add it in. Yep.
You gotta add it in.
Yep.
And then, I don't know if it's here or someplace else, but somewhere else you talk about house rules and that the house rules have to be posted for the renters. And one of the house rules is the location of fire extinguishers.
Wait till we get there, buddy.
Oh, wait a minute,
House
It's in the-
rules are,
It's
are
in the
down below.
application. Isn't there someplace in the application where you ask them for a drawing of the,
Yeah,
F
there
is
was.
description.
description of the building?
Yeah.
That was further up.
It's
My
F
point is,
description.
somewhere in here, for the initial permit application it must include the location of fire extinguishers. Just like it has notes about water and septic. It has
All
notes
right, that's
about,
number F. That's description. A floor plan of each bedroom or
Floor
sleeping
plan.
including the dimensions of said rooms, occupancy, blah, 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 ingress, egress shall be included with the application, submit a plat, the property showing approximate property boundaries, existing features, including building structures, well, septic, parking spaces, fire pits, I added / outdoor fireplaces, driveways, streams and other water bodies. Should we make it a separate?
well, I think it'd be fine in the description, but
Okay,
the floor plan's got to show where the fire extinguishers are.
yep.
I mean, one of the
Well,
primary reasons we're doing this is for health and safety, so where are the fire extinguishers?
I mean, related to what Rick was saying, I know that one of the big issues with these transient rentals has been fire safety. So I thought it
Yep.
might actually just make sense in between E and F to have a section that sort of mimicked the content of E, water and septic, but that was like fires and heat. You know, that was like, has the chimney been
Separate.
cleaned recently? You know, do the furnaces work properly? Is the wood stove functioning correctly? Stuff like that. I mean, I haven't written anything out, but I thought actually kind of something very similar to E, but specifically about, you know, furnaces, mostly wood stoves and chimneys, because people don't know how to use those and then they come and
Yeah,
start chimney
Becky and
fires.
I added that in, down, you'll see down in, house rules, because that's a huge
Right.
problem. Everybody goes, rents these things, doesn't open the flue, and the fire department is going incessantly to.
But even just like fire safety, it could just be like, you know, documentation that chimney has been cleaned. I mean, again, maybe it's similar to the stuff with the hosting platforms and how stuff is advertised. Maybe we don't have any, maybe the town doesn't have jurisdiction, but just as like a safety land
Right,
use.
documentation
And
location,
that's actually covered under state fire code regulations for a public space inspection.
So we
Whereas
should
the-
list
the
that that has
reason
to,
the reason we singled out the septic is that's not required by, so we went above and beyond. The other is part of your, when you have to get a public space fire inspection, all those things are part of the inspection.
is that part of the same inspection that would be happening? I mean, I guess for me,
It's part of the
it's
same
not
inspection that would be happening at any other commercial business.
right, but you're saying that the inspection that would happen as part of this application would include a fire inspection.
Correct.
yes.
I think that
That's what
should
it
be.
is. It's a fire and safety inspection.
So that was completely opaque to me. So maybe my comment or the planning board comment could be, it is completely opaque that anything in this inspection would include fire and safety inspection. Points of particular concern are like wood stoves and chimneys being, you know, cleaned on a regular schedule. Because like I hear, like we don't need to be redundant. If that's already included in the inspection, then great. But I feel, you know, from people looking at this local law to figure out what they can or can't do with their land, it should be very clear that fire and chimney safety is important. But that could just be like an appended note, like with that other language then.
But I can add something there also, and I mean, you could, because it just goes to something that we struggle with in the ZRC always is, that's always part of something, but the people who are applying don't know.
Don't
you
know that. Yeah, I don't know
They
that.
don't know that. And so so to have them more cognizant that you should be taking care of your fireplace and wood stove and show where your fire extinguishers are. So I think we could put something in there and just calling it out. And if Mary Lou says, nope, take it out, we can't say it, she says that. And
Fire
she-
extinguishers.
Yeah, I agree. It's a sort of, it's a similar that we have in town with all kind of junky properties. It's violation of the law, but it's not really explicitly said anywhere.
So I'm gonna just leave it at this. And I can get from Jerry, the proper compliance with state fire and safety codes, but that will show it there, even though it would be part of the inspection anyway. We're being overly redundant here.
The word is uniform fire
Thank you.
safety and building code. It's
Yeah,
every structure in that is built or used as a business has to comply with it. And it's thousands of pages long, so.
Well, I think it's good to include that,
Right,
though,
but
you know, like I always find it really helpful when we're just looking at our own zoning code, when it says pursuant to section F28 of like whatever, you know, that's always really helpful for me because then I can look it up. Whereas if my knowledge is assumed, I often miss it.
So let's just leave it in there because it brings it up. And then even though it would be being done, at least the applicant Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's the boilerplate, you always put it in the approval, and so it should be boilerplate for these people having an application. Oh boy, my God, you guys are running my battery out. All right, description, garbage removal. More comments as we go down? As I plug in my computer?
Under jurisdiction, is this where you
Where,
took
where,
out?
where we going to put in description location of the fire extinguisher?
I put it under fire safety instead, and maybe maybe if the board and Mary
Oh,
Lou
okay.
takes it out, it could be put into description. So I've added an F, fire safety,
Okay.
documentation of location of fire extinguishers and compliance with uniform fire and building safety codes
Okay,
shall be
okay.
provided.
I think it's important to know where's the fire extinguisher.
And we can put it
And
again,
should
the
be, yeah, should be
description
more
a
than
second
one.
time. It'll tell them twice to do it.
Under jurisdiction, is this where you took out principal place of business having to be within 30
Yep.
miles? Okay.
Yep. Exactly. That's that X'd out there. All right, application review. Anybody have anything beyond?
Nope.
The inspection says it again. So I've got a feeling Mary Lou is gonna like axe this because inspections, each unit shall be inspected by the code enforcement officer, determine compliance with New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. But we might as well give it a
Okay.
shot that people should know.
Yeah, I mean, also, Maren, like what Mike said about us going above and beyond with the septic stuff, you know, like maybe what we want to say is, or maybe I guess the thing I was originally thinking is just documentation that your chimney's been cleaned within the last 12 months. Like that's above and beyond what fire code requires. Because like if
Not really, no.
it's not,
No.
okay. I mean, if it's redundant, it's redundant, and I table my point. It's just, I know that the issue that the fire department has been,
Yep.
you know, like dumb fires because people don't know how to use wood stoves. And it just seems like a place
You get the
to,
creosote fires because they don't know how to burn, but
well, no, I know.
Well, no matter what, they
So-
basically, they shouldn't be allowed to start anything that has to do
Any
with
fires.
fire when you're doing an Airbnb.
No
Let's just
fires.
cut to the chase. They should be locked. Your wood stove should be locked, and you should have an unremovable grill in front of your fireplace. But we'll leave this here, and we'll put the location of fire extinguishers also in description, so at least that gets double covered. And then the town board can remove some of our redundancy if necessary.
Sam, I agree with you in terms cleaning, because we're saying proof of the septic system has been pumped out. So it should be proof of cleaning the chimney.
That would be, so if you're doing the inspection for a renewal every year, if the inspector is doing it properly, that will be checked every year. So if your fireplace is so bad that in 6 months, you end up having a clogged chimney, that is a problem. But every renewal permit, that will be part of the fire and safety code inspection, checking to make sure that your chimney is not clogged. In theory, if the fire inspector is doing his job correctly. So we don't need to say that. The fire inspector and the building code inspector does not inspect, period, end of discussion, septic. So you could have a problem there because it's not part of the inspection. Got it?
I see. Okay, I got it.
All right, so permit requirements, you need to see it. This, last time we went through this, this drove the people that have Airbnbs crazy, which is, I think, is very interesting. Must be, so you can see it from the outside, see it from the, and also for the occupants. Does this make sense to you, the window to be able to renew? To everybody.
Where are we
We are
now?
now in L, general permit regulations. The permit to operate a short-term transient rental
Okay.
in any given year will expire on December 31st, except an initial permit approval after November 1st of a calendar year. You get an extra 2 months, basically. Shall be allowed to run through December 31st of the subsequent year.
Hey, Mara,
Yep.
have we run this by Jerry or whoever, he's the CEO now, but I mean, literally what we're doing is we're basically cutting them off at the, instead of having a year from whenever they apply, we're basically cutting them off at the end of the year and then having him to go around and do the inspections all at the same time.
Yes, and this was run by Becky and Jerry, and this is what they wanted. And that's why they put in permit holders shall be able to apply for renewal permits beginning October 1st through December 1st. So they can apply then, so that gives them time to do it. So they don't
Okay.
all turn up on December 31st, which was exactly what you were thinking, with a permit and say, oh my God, you got to do it for me now. If you don't get it in October 1st through December 1st, it's not going to be a renewal permit. You got to do a whole new initial permit again because you missed the window. Because that
Patrick, the reason they wanted them all to expire at the same time is when things expire at different times, it's a tracking nightmare.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Know
No, I
when one
I
expires
get
and
that,
when.
yeah.
So if they all expire at the same time,
It's
they
actually
send out a
easier.
letter reminding you it's time for renewal, and then it starts the process.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm that Jerry was on board with,
No,
Yeah.
he's gonna get
it
this
was
sudden
not only on
workload.
board, it was their request.
Yeah, this was their verbiage.
Okay.
I thought under general permit regulations, this, we're asking for, or the law asks for house rules. I thought maybe in addition to house rules, it would be prudent to also ask that certain relevant town laws and county regulations also be posted. And the ones I was thinking of specifically were our regulations we have about noise, which are admittedly minimal, our regulations about trash, our regulations about parking, and also some verbiage about the burn ban, the annual burn ban.
That's in there. It was.
Is it in the
there.
house rules stuff?
Yes, specify no bonfires during New York State designated no burn periods.
I was sort of imagining, like, when I imagine it in my head, I imagined like a little one-page thing that says the following laws apply in town of Rochester, that's also like posted next to your permit. And it's like section 27A, trash. And it just like lists what the rule is about trash. And like section 32B, parking. Like, I just thought, when you go to a hotel or something,
Yeah, they
you're
had.
much
they
more
used to
likely
always
to
have that
follow
thing
the
in the back of the
rules.
door.
Yeah, you're much
Yeah,
more
you're
likely
gonna
to
have the
take
whole
out your
back of
trash.
the door filled up.
Great. I mean, I'm just thinking about like the issues that come up that have to do with land use are things like noise, trash, parking, and fire.
I'm
And
not
we have-
disagreeing, but I'm just saying that you're gonna end up with a lot more than one page.
I mean, the town could even be similar to the, like the town comes up with the permit, just like the other side of the permit could be the list of the rules that apply, the laws that apply, that just is therefore automatically posted along with the permit. Just something like that. I felt like it might make a real difference in terms of the behavior of
We sort of
Renters.
went through some of that in the ZRC also, and then we kicked it out, but
I can always comment as a private citizen if people don't agree.
well, you know what I'm gonna do is, I sort of agree with it, but instead of writing it in, I'm gonna say add a list of pertinent town laws, and it would be parking,
I thought
noise.
of parking, noise, trash, and fire, but I was really thinking about the burn ban and like listing those dates and what a burn ban means. Because
I know,
people,
exactly. We wrote in burn ban, but nobody's have a freaking clue.
young men in particular are really good at figuring out reasons why it doesn't apply to them in their situation. So
On one page of what the burn ban is, and I think it'd be very, this is the burn ban, these are the dates, and
put it in the house rule binder. Yeah,
in the binder, exactly.
at the very least.
All right, so I'm gonna make that as a comment that we add in our letter.
We can make
It's a
them,
good way to tell them what the rules are so that they don't violate them, which is one of the reasons why we're coming back and putting a law in called transient short-term rentals. There's been too many abuses. So let them know in a nice way what the abuses are.
Well, that was something, this is why we put in the house rule, identify the property lines in the statement emphasizing that the unit occupants may be liable for legal trespassing, because people are wandering around everybody's, that's another example of it. So I think we should probably say, specify no bonfires during New York State designated no burn periods. And something, and posts, and do they have a nice little one pager with Smokey the Bear on it for everybody? This is what we need, a nice Smokey the Bear one pager of no burn. But I think adding something at the end listing pertinent town laws and adding explanation of the burn ban.
I mean, honestly, what I'd like to see is that as part of passing this law and like coming up with the permit forms or whatever, that the town board actually just like makes a one-page thing that needs to be included in the house rules, like that they write it. Or, I mean, that's what I'd like to see.
Is
but
Erin throwing things at you right now?
no, I throw these things at Erin.
Now that's what I mean. You're throwing this idea out, and she should be throwing things at you because she's like, you're giving me.
Oh, is she throwing things at me? Not like ideas, but like
No.
Right.
Like objects, exactly.
Yeah. Heavy, sharp ones.
Sharp objects. Here's what you.
Well, it's part of the education process for how we want to see transient rental units rented.
to make sure all the renters agree that they've read the terms and conditions.
Right. Yeah, they need to sign on.
Maren, could I just go back to number 2 that you discussed? Did I hear you say that one of the biggest objections previously to any kind of regulations around these short-term transient rentals was the length of the initial permit, when it expired?
No. It was actually, this is when I sat in on the public hearing. God, when did we go through this, Mike, before? 3 years ago, 2 years ago? And people were having a fit.
17.
17, exactly. So even
They were having
more.
a fit?
That you had to put a piece of paper up that would say all these house rules and here's
Oh,
the
all right.
fire.
I misunderstood you.
No, just literally having a piece of paper up,
Yeah,
and before it said that it should be also on the outside, visible from the street. And it was a good argument that visible from the street is pretty impossible when you have a lot of long driveways, but it should be visible from the outside. So if the house is burning or there's a raving lunatic in there, the fire, police, etc., can get the names of the people who own it without going in with a raving lunatic.
Rick, the reason the town board settled on the 2-year permit is that coincides with what is required of other commercial businesses. They have to be inspected every 2 years for apartment buildings, commercial buildings. Any business that has an occupancy of 50 or greater is a once a year. But it's unlikely that you're going to have a short-term rental that's going to have 50 people staying there. If it is, they're severely probably overcrowded, unless the Pine Ridge or somebody does it. But So that's why the 2 years was chosen to mirror the rules that other fire safety follows.
No, I guess I was just surprised when you said that Becky and the CEO want these things that will expire at the same time. It would seem that that's a hell of a lot of work.
It's actually easier because it's not coming in all the time, all hectic. Like they can get an intern or they can
Okay.
organize around it.
It's also
versus-
knowledge of when they expire, because if they
Right.
expire a year from when they're granted and they're various times, it's a tracking nightmare to stay on top of when it expires and when, and it's sending out an individual letter to each one to remind them it's expiring. Or this way, they pull all the addresses of all the short-term rental permits and they send them one letter saying your permit's about to expire December 31. Renew it.
It's just
Okay,
like,
I guess
just
I'm
like
in an
my
argumentative. I guess I'm in an argumentative mood.
You're
tonight.
thinking about the inspection, and I don't disagree that it's going to be a lot of work, but from
But that's why-
from a logging standpoint, they would rather do it all at once.
I guess that's why they make computers. The computer generates the notice.
but anyway, once again, this is
But-
not, I mean, I'm gonna go to Brian's comment here. This is not zoning. This is what Jerry wants. This is his job. This is what Becky wants. This is her job. You know, we can butt out at that point. And not tell them like, no, we wanted to do randomly.
It's just words offering a different perspective.
On that one, I say, you know what? I mean, it's just like when I do my FINRA yearly re-registration with the financial securities, they don't do it at all different times. Everybody does it in November. You got 1 month in November because it's even easier. And they got a lot of computers to do it. So you do tend to like, your car, I guess, is different. That's why we have so many people when our taxes pay for 10 million people to work at the DMV. So you can do it in a random, whenever you feel like it.
The other way too is when they start to slip through the cracks, and then
Yep.
we get them out there that aren't being
Enforced.
enforced. And that's more the worry than the amount of work, is that some will slip through the cracks and nobody will realize, oh, their permit expired 6 months ago and they're still operating.
All right, now we're down to complaints, which is pretty standard language. And I have some work to do here to get our ideas. I mean, I think our biggest things are the definition of dwelling unit versus short-term rental versus making sure you have a consistent name and that it's clear to people. And I agree we should add something to the house rules that are posted. I added on G a little bit along the lines of what you were getting at, Sam, because Becky and I talked about that. If allowed by the property owner, instructions for fires and fireplaces or wood stoves. If not allowed by the property owner, a statement stating as such. So at least there's a window to, if they do start burning the house down, we know that the people said you're not supposed to have a fire. It gives both the owner and the town more to, I mean, there's no way to make sure the people follow it, but at least there's instructions. This is a flue, please open it. This is a, you know, you just cut down a branch of pine tree, please don't put it into the fireplace. All right, so I will draft up a letter with our comments and other confusion points and get that all out to you. When's your meeting, Mike? It's next Thursday? Mike?
Sorry, I was muted. The
Yes.
short-term rental one is the 9th, Wednesday.
Perfect. So I'll by Friday, I'll try and work on this, guys, tomorrow, Thursday, so you can all look at it and give your comments on the cover letter and see that I capture everything we spoke about, and we can send this out to the town board. What
Oh,
does
I
everyone-
have one more comment on the section 2 amendment, which was just the list of the zoning districts where this is allowed. I guess I just wanted to see what everyone else thought. Like, I don't know if I didn't cross-reference it with where Airbnb or where normal bed and breakfasts are allowed. I didn't cross-reference it with hotels, motels, but like, this is pretty much all of our zoning districts.
Yeah, it's
And I
everywhere
just-
except for NR and I.
And I just, like, me personally, you know, for me, a land use thing is like, you can't allow everything everywhere. And this is basically it's a hotel type use. And I just thought it would be worth, I don't actually have a super strong feeling about where it should or shouldn't be allowed, but I just thought it was worth bringing up to the
Sam,
whole board.
the reason for that is it's being considered an accessory use to residential.
No, I understand that, Mike.
But residential is allowed in all those zones. In the NR, if you want residential, it's a special use permit. And in the I, you can do residential, but we figured we would discourage it. But in every other zone, residential is a by right use. So
no, I'm not ignorant of that. I'm just, I'm
but
saying that.
the key is this is an accessory use, and it's not going.
But
to
you
the
can
planning
allow,
board.
Mike, it's the accessory, there are not the same accessory uses allowed in every zoning district, and you can allow an accessory use in one and not allow it in another.
Okay.
Like, I'm just bringing up the point that this is allowing it basically everywhere. And
I mean,
maybe that's not a good idea. We don't allow bed and breakfasts everywhere, or maybe we do. I actually didn't check. I have to.
Sam, we went through that also in the ZRC because we wanted to be more restrictive. And our punt was, it was better to get the rule in with something, because if you start saying no R1, R2, then people are really you're gonna get a lot of people that can't do it at all. And then we lose everything over that. So it's better to do it. This was just our thinking. It's better to do it this way and then maybe come back in later and get rid of it as accessory uses in certain places. But that will kill getting the entire law in saying you can't do it in certain places.
Yeah, no, and I'm very aware of like the trade-off is like right now everyone's in violation and no one's being cited. So like having at least a rule where there's some functioning enforcement is better than no rule, even if that rule is more permissive than the ideal. I mean, I understand that. I mean, thought it was
philosophically,
worth
I
bringing
completely agree with you, but I'd ban it in pretty much everywhere. But
Okay, it sounds like nobody has strong feelings, including me,
Right.
about these zoning districts, but it's like the most straightforward land use
Hey
question
Sam,
here
I
is
just
like
actually
where.
did a quick check of the zoning uses,
Uh-huh.
and bed and breakfast is allowed in every district except the I
Yeah,
and the NR.
I thought it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now they require a site plan
right, it requires
rather
site
than
plan
just a
review.
permit, but they also have more onerous
Requirements,
New York State
Require-
building
state
code if you're an
requirements.
actual bed and breakfast.
which again makes me, Airbnb should just be strung up and tarred and feathered for their egregious
I
violations of
completely
every
agree.
local law. But that's a
Completely
separate
agree.
question.
unfortunately, we can't do that.
We could tar and feather them in effigy.
And we could short the stock when they do their IPO.
I'll talk to you about that. I've got like maybe $100 I could put into that.
Okay. All right, guys, let's move on. I've got a couple other, the rest of this should be somewhat speedy. The wildlands application, does everybody remember? This was a minor subdivision carving out one, it's like a 6.6 acre project. Well, he didn't do anything. If you look at the application, if everybody's got their PB documents, their PB stuff there. If you pull up wild land holdings, we asked for topo on the map. We asked to show the hydric soils, the wetlands. We asked to show a lot of stuff. They didn't do anything. They just took Ulster County parcel viewer and drew lines on it and said, okay, look, this is fine. So I spoke with Mary Lou and because I said, you know, what do we do? Do we give them a chance and say, you didn't really do anything we said? We said this must be on the site plan, and give them until the 2 weeks until the next meeting, or almost 2 weeks, to get their act together? Or do we just say, you didn't do this, so come back in January with it. So I want to ask everybody's, because this isn't what we asked for, and we can't really make the rounds with this or start to make a decision with any of this by just taking pictures of parcel viewer, which we often do.
So we asked them for it, everybody agreed to it. If they can make the deadline that we have for getting stuff to us before the meeting, which is 2 weeks before the meeting.
They
we
just
said that
missed
we're
it.
gonna-
That was Monday.
All right, so then they have to wait till January. Either we're gonna follow our own rules or we're not.
That was my opinion. Is anybody else? I mean, that's the way I voted, but I didn't want to be the bad person who gets strung up as usual. I wanted,
I agree.
okay.
I agree also.
All right, perfect. Then I will send a note saying that the board discussed it at the meeting. And I mean, there's a note even saying, yeah, there. And I think the background on this is, it started at, and this is not part of this, is a sidebar, but Mr. Fink said to Brianna, do you have to write on the plat, all further subdivision will be a major subdivision if I do this? And I said, yes, you do. That is the rule. He said, well, my buyer might back out because, so secretly, the buyer is buying this, I think, and they want to do a big subdivision of all this acreage. So I think they're trying to like not do anything now because they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, that maybe their buyer will back out, but we're going to push them to January. It takes care of that. On the Williams application, those are the guys that need the use and area variances. Just so you guys know, we're going to have a call on Friday. Nadine is trying to find a way that we could continue the subdivision process forward. And we could say, if they get a building permit, then she's trying to see some way to make it move forward. It's a bit confusing to me. We're going to have Jerry come in and talk about it, but just so you know, me, Mary Lou, Nadine, and the applicant, and Jerry and Becky are going to have a meeting because the idea is they're probably not going to get a use variance, and then they can't do the subdivision because it is pretty much a self-created problem. And she's trying to find a way to wrinkle around it. So just so you know, that's going on. That was an informative.
Maren,
Yeah.
can I just interject that if Mary Lou's involved in that meeting, the applicant needs to be paying for her time. That's not part of the application process, so.
Oh, yeah, she bills for all of this. I thought you guys she's billing away happy. That's not my,
No, but the applicant needs to be made aware of that if she's involved in the meeting. So, because-
Brianna,
yeah.
you still there? Hello?
I'm
I
here.
can see her head bobbing.
I'm here.
Can you make a note of that and send a note to Nadine and the Williamses?
Because what happens is if we bill after the fact and then they just walk away, then we got no way to collect the money. So,
Yep, you're totally right.
Yeah.
So make
Okay.
them aware they're gonna get billed for that.
Gotcha.
And I think she's trying to have her cake and eat it too, but we'll see what her argument is. Sam, would you like to update everybody on our incredibly productive Gateway meeting? Mr. Rich was told that if he could get some stuff into us today, or yesterday, we would discuss it. They got nothing in, but I don't know if you want to give an update.
Sure, yeah, I didn't think ahead about what to say about it. I think it was productive.
Yeah.
Like Maren just said, you know, they didn't get anything to us for today. You know, for me, and I think for all of us, maybe the biggest takeaway is just a little bit of a slight reframing of like, I think we'd all like to see this project find a path towards happening, but that, you know, our concerns about safety, particularly with parking, are paramount, and that, you know, we're willing to work with the applicant to find a creative solution that includes waivers to move forward, but that, you know, we have to work together on that, and we're inclined to work with them if they're inclined to work with us. So there was a lot of stuff kicked around. You know, they really want parking. We really want them to have some parking too, but not as much because it doesn't seem safe. Hopefully they'll be getting us some alternate parking ideas, including what it would look like to have the driveway loop around the back. And I guess the other thing that came up was water.
Yeah.
It seems like they may be DOA because of the health department permitting with the water. And that's just an unfortunate situation with the entirety of downtown Accord, which doesn't really have to do with us, but
There's no
might
water.
make all of our concerns moot. Well, the issue is that downtown Accord is it's so dense and everyone has private wells and private septic that if you want to do anything commercial where there's any public access to water, it got pretty in the weeds, but I think it's basically like if you're a grocery store of any kind, you're regulated by Ag and Markets. And if you're regulated by Ag and Markets, you are automatically a public water supply. Regardless of whether you have a water fountain or a public restroom.
Exactly.
Which may make the whole project DOA because they're too close to septics that they don't have control over.
Wow.
So it's an engineering issue, which is just unfortunate. It's out of our hands, but I think that's probably what they've been
They're probably working on that.
But I think the biggest takeaway was just like for us to be clear that we would like to see them find a way to be successful and that our concerns are just about making sure that the parking is safe.
And also we have a gateway meeting being set up. Dollar General, as you saw the map that I brought in last meeting, is back with an even worse idea, in my opinion. So we have a gateway there. We're working on setting that up with both Department of Public Works and DOT, because now they have entrances on a county road and a state road, just to make it even worse. Also on the 14th, we have a lot of applications, as you can see. And everything is up there. We're like super timely on getting everything up there. So do take a bunch of looks at all of them. A lot of them were having a perpetual problem of people not really doing what we keep telling them to do. So they're just going to have to be frustrated, I think. Because, a perfect example is the Madalena, I can't say his last name, Nekowick. Within 4 days, they got everything that we asked for it. They perfectly done, impeccable. This is what all applications should be like. The NEF application came back saying, nope, we can't change anything. They moved slightly the middle line, so it does go along the existing, there's a farm road there. And as I told you, the most egregious was that Wildland just basically said, to heck with you guys, we'll do whatever we want. What else do I have here? Especially since there's a lot of subdivisions and different ones, really make sure everybody looks at subdivision design criteria, especially with the Cusack one. There's a lot of wetland, environmental, steep slopes. They don't really meet a lot of our design criteria for some of the subdivision. For other parts of it, it is fine. And I'm going to throw this out there. Do you guys want to Zoom the next meeting, as it's going to be long? Is this Martin being lazy, or do you want to be there in person?
I think we can Zoom it.
Come to Zoom.
That's me for Zoom. Anybody else?
Lauren, we may be moving to mandatory Zoom anyway because of the numbers rising the way they are. We're inching close to 1,000 cases in Ulster County now, and that may become a mandate.
I think we were over the last that I looked.
Well, as of the numbers today were 970 something, but it may have jumped up today.
All right, so that makes it close enough that with one more vote, we Zoom it next time, because I think everybody will, it's going to be there's a lot of stuff there.
Martin, could I ask you, I'd like to see Zoom, but it's up, it's up to the group, whatever they want. Could I ask a question about, you mentioned there's a lot of stuff coming in. Where are we with utilizing, what's her name?
Liz and CPL.
Yeah,
As you can see, the solar people, they've sort of gone quiet. There's nothing that's one that she's working on. She is enlisted and already escrowed for the Byrne one, and Olga Byrne will get most of her money back because they ended up getting their act together, and they really, we won't have to use them unless we thought maybe a review of what was submitted as the environmental study that was submitted with the Byrne application. If we don't think,
Martin, that's the only one who has actually paid escrow.
yep, that's the only one who has paid escrow.
confirm
Yep.
that.
I'm thinking of Kuzak. You made the point that there's an awful lot of good stuff.
Kuzak, we didn't remember. That was the one Sam pointed out. It was too early. So now we have a lot more information. And
Okay. I forgot.
if you
that,
look at
yeah.
the application, there's a lot more. They even say there's going to be a conservation portion, but it's unclear if they're going to do a conservation easement or they're just calling that. Probably that's one where we have to call in some help and analysis, because most of the lots they hit every environmental thing we don't want to be built on. Then the Walnut Brook, eventually, we will probably need CPL, because that is the old Maybrook, as they're calling it. But if you look at, they've given us absolutely nothing. So they're so beyond preliminary. They just have, they're like thinking of maybe having sex, and we're not even like close to getting pregnant with them. So
I thought that's what you was going to ask you. Did she actually say that?
So eventually they might get to the point where they have a fully formed
Fetus?
but right now we have nothing.
So which application is that?
And maybe the Open Space Institute, that's very preliminary also. That's for the Hudson Valley Seed Company. That could be pretty simple, and it could be clean enough. We won't need to use them. Or maybe we will. My gut is that they're not very organized, but we can help them get organized, and their actual project is quite clean and simple, so we won't. So I really would say of the things that are in there now, it's Walnut Brook and Cusack. The American Tower is adding more stuff onto our tower, the town tower, so to speak. So that's pretty clean. And that's that. So we have our homework set up.
Martin, which tower is that, out of curiosity? Because it's news to the supervisor.
It's news to, this one came in screaming in at the last minute. Airport Road. It's the
Okay,
one
then.
that dumped.
They're adding more carriers?
Hold on, I will.
Lauren, you want me to? Yeah. They're replacing 6 antennas.
Oh, replacing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes,
exactly.
and they're adding 3 RRVs, that's what they're called, and surge something or other.
The surge
So
protector, yeah.
it's like modification.
They're upgrading
Right.
the equipment, and yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the last one they did. They're not changing anything major upgrading equipment.
I was hoping it was going to increase their rental, because if it increases their rental, it increases our revenue.
Sorry. All right, guys, that's it, I think.
I make a
Motion to adjourn.
disband.
All right. All in
I'll
favor?
second Rick's motion. Aye.
Aye. Against, abstain. Thank you all very much for doing this. We'll see you Zoomacious. And do all your homework and get a lot of notes, since we'll be remote, because we do have a bunch of stuff there. All right, everybody have
Are you going to send the
Brianna.
list or agenda?
Brianna,
Huh?
can you send me links to the stuff?
I'll send you a link, and if anyone needs the actual maps, just let me know, and I can get them together and leave them outside for you. So there's a lot of physical maps. And yes, Oriana, I'm assuming there'll be an agenda.
Thank you.
Brianna, if you
Mara,
can
you're gonna,
send, I'm sorry, go
are
ahead.
you going to send some kind of list, or it's gonna be part of the agenda, those application?
No, you'll get an agenda. I mean, Zorian, I do have to like make some money and do other things occasionally besides write you agendas. But yes, we just got it all in yesterday. So sometime this week, you'll get a full agenda going through to see everything that's on there. But if you look at, you can
Okay,
always see,
okay.
if you look at PB, if you guys go on and you see everything that's open that isn't in either completed, agendas, etc., those things that are lurking around there are pretty much the things that are going to be on the agenda. So I'll write them up more specifically, but you can always get a head start. If you see stuff there, that means it's on the agenda. Like I'm on the agenda today. It's so exciting.
Brianna, if you can share either the link to me or if you want to do it, because it's probably hard for Maren to share maps because I know she's working on multiple computers. So if either you send me the links, that way when an application is on, if you're Zooming, I can put the maps up so everybody's looking at the same picture. It certainly is going to help the applicants and probably speed up the dialogue. So
If that's okay with Maren, that's okay
Yep.
with me.
yeah,
That's
and
totally fine.
that way, Maren, it frees you up to chair the meeting and not have to be hosting it. So either Brianna or I, and I don't mind being the person since I'm moderating it for you. I can share the maps as long as I have access to them all.
No, that's totally fine because on my big screen, it's easier for me to open them
Yeah,
up.
I know, I get it. You're working two computers. I totally get it.
All right, perfect. Okay, guys, everybody have a great evening.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.